saw blade right in the center of that. Bingo, bango, done-o. What I'm gonna try to do is set up the scenario here. And it's a scenario you probably are familiar with because it's probably happened in your area. Emeral Ash Borer getting in these trees and killing them. I love to work with ash. It's a hardwood. It's a good bit harder than walnut or red oak, if that gives you any indication of how hard it is, unless you've ever worked with it. But it's a very stable wood. Once you get it dried, it makes great cabinet work, and the grain in it's just absolutely gorgeous. I was fortunate to be able to purchase this Woodland Mills sawmill a couple of years ago, almost now. I think I've got this thing dialed in pretty good. So I want to show you something that to me is a little bit of a miracle. You see, I've got this area in here in the shop, and I know I'm very fortunate to have this shop. I was fortunate to have a friend that needed some pine trees cut. I went over and cut them for him, bucked them up, had a log truck at that time, took them to another fellow that had a sawmill, come down and framed this up. And I think that's been about 6 years ago now, I'm not quite sure. Like many of you haven't had time to do anything much in the shop as far as getting things organized. If this is all I did, yeah, it'd be organized, but it's not. In fact, this is all I don't do because I'm still working. Cleared out a place over here in this corner, and I've showed you this before, where I want to put a work table, a mechanic's work table, if you will, to mount the vise and to work on stuff. Milled some ash, brought 3 2x12s in here, and I made a short video on how to joint with a circular saw. If you hadn't seen that, go back and look at that. But I should have explained a little bit more about what happened there, because to me it's just an absolute miracle. To take logs, put them on that mill over there, bring them from a stack, they've been air drying a couple of weeks or so, bring them on a stack, set them here on sawbucks. I run them through the planer just a couple of times, not much at all, okay? And then I butted them up together and ripped a circular saw blade down through there. Now they're not perfect as far as furniture grade if you was gluing them up. And by the way, I think I am going to glue these up. You know, you'd want them butted as tight as that right there. And they got a few little spaces on here, so for furniture grade, I'd have to get them a little bit straighter. You'd want to have, ideally, you'd want to put them on a joiner, but I don't have a joiner. But I do have a circular saw and a straight edge. And so I just run a circular saw right down through there. And these were heavy enough to where they were not going to move. If you was using lighter material, you'd want to clamp them together and saw it. They're really, really close. Some of it's butted just right up tight. So I did get a biscuit joiner several years ago, and I think I'm gonna throw some biscuits in it and some wood glue and glue these up. And it would take less time to make the framing to use, you know, pre-dressed lumber. But because I have so much ash around here, I think I'm just gonna try to dress up some ash from a framing material and get started on framing this. I guess the purpose or intent of this video is because a lot of content that you see on YouTube, if you're like me, you're watching these guys and they've got the equipment. You know what I'm saying? They've got the joiners and commercial planers and commercial table saws and all kinds of jigs that they've used over the years, and just amazing clamp setups and router tables and just about everything conceivable piece of equipment that you need in a furniture shop. They've got it and they're building stuff with it. But I'm sort of under the suspicion that there's a ton. In fact, the vast majority of people out there that's wanting to do woodworking, maybe build a little table in their shop or whatever, you don't have all that equipment. You're like me, you got what you got. And so I want to try to show you, well, what I'm going to show you is not the only way to do it, okay? Not even close. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. But this will be a way. You might pick up a technique or two or an idea or two. You know, usually that's the way things work anyway, isn't it? That somebody shows something and you say, oh, I see a better way, or I see a way I can do it with what I've got. So maybe that's sort of in the intent here. I am going to, and I don't even know if I've got any biscuits. It's been a long time. But this here's what's called a biscuit joiner. Well, I don't have many. I may have to make some biscuits. Anyway, what it does, that drops down. You can see that red line right there. That's where the middle of where your blade's going to be. As with most things, I can sit here and talk till I'm blue in the face, but I can show you better, I can tell you, and you can watch better than you can listen, probably. Get that glued up, then we're going to start making some framing material and get this framed up. Maybe something I do will be a benefit to you. I sure hope so. Time to quit yapping and get busy. There is probably a rule of thumb about where you want to put biscuits, but I'm just going to put them where I like them, or whatever. This one's about 5 inches from the edge. I'm going to put them, I don't know, about every 14 inches. Over 12, 14 inches, something like that. And you want to be very sure that you don't get them all mixed up. So I'm going to put me some kind of indicator. I'm going to put A and B. No, I'm going to put A and A so I know they go together. Just some way where you'll know, okay, A goes with A, B goes with A. Put your dog's name, your cat's name, whatever. All right. And actually, if you don't have clamps, you can make you some clamps out of good hardwood. You just make it you take you a piece of wood, say this was wood, okay, and make it about, you know, much longer than your thing, and cut you a notch out of it like that, just a little bit wider than what you're doing, okay, and then you slide it down on there and stick you some wedges and drive your wedges in on each side, and you can pull it up tight like that if you don't have clamps. So now, well, I just got 1 ear and 2 pencils. Now I got 2 ears and 2 pencils. Lay right there where I'll forget it. So we'll turn this around because we got it marked where we want to put our biscuits. but there's a little red line right there. If I put that exactly where I marked it, hold this down, pull the trigger, and what that does is make a little groove right there. You see, I didn't quite get down to the center, but that's not critical. Be better if it was in the center. I put some glue on this biscuit and I'll slide it right in there, and that's how the two will come together. The joint will be stronger actually than the board. You won't pull them apart. Get some holes cut. Make sure you mark them where they're going to go back. You know, put some kind of indicator on there so you don't get confused or messed up. You know which side is your top side and that kind of thing. And I like to glue with the top side up because your glue's going to drip down on the bottom, and you can just take a scraper after it dries. It's a good idea to have some kind of cardboard or something down on your floor because it's going to drip. Now you don't have to work like greased lightning. Wish that come out a little bit better. All right. That really should have a little bit of juice on this side. Get these ends pretty much where you want them before you get too crazy with the clamps, because they'll be a little hard to move once you get it clamped up. I think we got it pretty flat, and I'll tell you, it ain't gonna be light to move around, but when this sets up, we've got a solid piece of wood that's 30-something inches wide, and we can cut it, you know, to make it perfectly square. That's presuming or assuming that this corner over here is square, and I think it is. If it ain't, it's really close. So we'll let that sit and bake for 24 hours. and get on the framing of this thing. Put this straight edge on here. Same thing on this end. It just rides flat. It looks sort of messy, and the underside you can see, but just let those drips do what they're going to do, and you'll be able to scrape that off with a scraper and finish your glued up project. Just a little tip here, if you're putting cabinets in a shop somewhere, if you got a concrete floor, there's a good possibility that your floor is not perfectly level. This one's close, but it's not perfectly level. So what I've done here is drawn me a level line. I don't know if you can see it or not, of where the top's going to be, and that's level. This is actually about 3/8 of an inch higher than that corner. And I knew that corner, for some reason, was a little bit low. I don't know if the form got off or if the guys that unloaded the truck, I finished it, but I had some help unloading the truck because it was quite a few yards. But anywho, I want the top level. I don't want it running with the floor. I want it level, so if I spill water on it, it won't run anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So I will adjust. I'm going to go ahead and build these frames here, the support frames. I'm going to build them all the same and then adjust up a little bit to make them hit right there. Does that make sense? Now, why don't I build them all different? Well, if I build them all the same, it's just going to be easier. That's my thinking anyway. So, I'm not going to have any frame piece longer than 34 3/4. So I'm going to go ahead and cut everything, rough cut everything 34 3/4, and then carry on. Where's my pencil? I think it's been not quite, but close to 24 hours. So we're gonna take the clamps off here, slick this up a little bit, get all the excess glue off of it, maybe sand it a little bit. We've got to go outside. It's a little nippy this morning, I'm not gonna kid you. Probably is at your house, and I know some of you guys up north, man, the forecast is not good for next week. I'll be thinking about you. If it's any consolation, some of you that have channels, like my buddy Davy's Logging, if you're out there in the snow, I will get a cup of hot chocolate and pull up in the Lazy Boy and think about you. All right, you'll notice over here on my bracing, or if you will, the foundation for this tabletop, this is very, 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 very minimalistic. And it's a little bit, I don't want to call it fancy, but it's a little more than a fella needs to do in a shop. But I just wanted to use up this ash. I got so much of it, and it's beautiful material. And, you know, a minimalistic framework, in my opinion, it gives you more room for storage. I still might come back in and put in some shallow drawers. I don't know. I'm still debating on that, but whatever I do, I can retrofit it later. So found a couple of scrapers, and I think I will go ahead and take all this clamping off of here and just get a little gander at it. This is a shop table, not a kitchen table. How many times have I said that? I'm gonna put the old Whirligig 1000 on it and get this glue off of here. Probably gonna put a few swirls in it. Hey, but it's gonna get some swirls anyway, right? For the two of you that are curious about what grit bit I'm using to start with on this belt sander, it's the whatever I could find grit. I don't know what it is. Something like that. Wonder if it's level. I think it was just about 3 weeks ago, I started getting into this ash. Over here on the Woodland Mills HM 130 Max, cut off some slabs, milled up some 1x and some 2x. The kid's been wanting a bench to do mechanicing work on. Hadn't had that and hadn't had time to build one. Got a little window of opportunity. You watched us through the process of building this table. Now I put a little Danish oil on it. This is 36.5 inches. Main thing is it's solid, it's level, and I think it looks right nice too. It's actually too pretty for a shop table. We did a minimalist kind of framing situation here. I'm certainly thinking about putting some drawers, some shallow drawers in here, and then I'll put fronts on these posts. That's sort of what I'm thinking. I don't know that it's going to happen, but anywho's, I love it when a plan comes together. So we started out something like this, and we ended up something like this. Well, I'll be damned. I wouldn't believe this, but I'm looking at it, so I guess I got to.